Um, Welcome to this somber edition of the Geeks Worldwide, episode 3 of Weekly Geekly, and it's somber because in the past week we've lost two legends in the film industry, and one of those was also a legend in the music industry, and that's David Bowie and Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman was a big part of my growing up because I remember watching the Harry Potter movies and just being enamored by his character, the complexity and the depth of his character. What do you guys feel about Alan Rickman or David Bowie?
I thought Alan Rickman was a very versatile actor that could play a lot of different roles and had a lot of emotional spectrum, and I think that losing someone like him so early is really very disappointing. It's very sad.
Especially after last year he directed a movie, and that looked like a venture he was going to be getting into. And it would have been really exciting to see him go there. Peter, what were your experience with Rickman and Bowie?
I was a big fan of old Mr. Rickman since Die Hard. His first, at least American movie.
His first movie?
Yeah. And I gotta say, he was incredible talent. And David Bowie, I've always enjoyed. He's been just a very the consummate entertainer, in his shows and his music, and it just bums me out that people aren't going to be able to experience anything new from these two talents.
Yeah, it really is. It's a real loss. Agasicles, what are your experiences with these two legends, as I said earlier?
I'm definitely from that generation that I'm definitely from that generation who experienced Die Hard in real time, and so he's most recognizable to me as Hans Gruber. And I hate I've been struggling with a way to say this. Since we added this to the agenda, it's sad. It's no doubt sad. As far as I don't know. It's not a celebrity death or a iconic death in recent history that I'm super emotional about. Again, just not to take anything away from him. I just didn't relate to him as closely as maybe some other recent deaths.
I recently watched Dogma, and he's the Angel Gabriel in that movie, and it just shows he could be seen as these villains like Severus Snape and Hans Gruber, but then he could also play this role like the Angel Gabriel, where he's really, really funny, and he this isn't necessarily an emotional death, but it is a really hard loss to go through because of the talent that he was as an actor. And David Bowie has been making music since the 60s. All right, well, now that we've gotten all the bad news out of the way, we're going to get into a segment that we like to call Mainline Geeking. And that is going to be something where we talk about, this is a new segment that we're going to talk about what we do each week and talk about in depth that is a real, our go-to geek thing. And Gaskleys, since you created the topic, you can lead off.
So I'm probably going to first off break one of my old rules that I wrote about this segment and talk about two things. Just because one I'm not really going to talk about. So what I'm into right now, my big main geek project right now, is my NVIDIA Shield Pro Android gaming console. Just got returned to me by NVIDIA yesterday. So that's going to be my main thing for probably the next week. I haven't turned it on and reset it up again yet, but so it's just sitting over there on the desk. But the thing is, I got this thing earlier in the year, probably April or Mayish, and I did a series of review posts on it for the site, and I did a couple streams and video posts and whatnot. And I think, hey, Matt, I think we're getting a bunch of feedback on your end. If you could maybe mute while you're not talking. Thanks, man. Sorry. And I got and so there was a big material issue that was discovered with the flash drive on this thing. It's a 500 gigabyte SSD that sits in this unit. So NVIDIA eventually came clean with a hardware issue on the unit and did a recall on them all, basically. So in addition to that drama, I went into I had some other problems with it because they were, I don't know. When I ordered, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place on this thing. So when they did the recall, the things were sold by a third party that wasn't NVIDIA. So I think they were having problems tracking down a lot of the original purchase orders. So they were very specific about wanting you to give them the address that you used when you ordered the device. Well, between me ordering the device and now, I've moved. So when I gave them that address, I was expecting them to come back and say, okay, we verified your PO. Now we need to know where to ship it to. But they didn't come back to me for that. They just shipped it to my old address. It got signed for there. And when I went back to NVIDIA and said, hey, you sent it to the wrong address, they said, well, that's not our problem. So I fought with them for a couple weeks, and then eventually they capitulated and said, well, we'll send you a new unit. So the whole point is I'm just really happy that I got this thing because I thought I was just SOL. And that's what I'll be into for the next week. And what I most recently completed was reading the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Compendium, 416 pages, and that review is posted on the site as well.
James, going down the line here, what's your week in geek looking like?
Well, Netflix about a year ago made a show called Marco Polo, which was fairly well received, and it was sort of a historical fiction of Marco Polo's journey throughout Mongolia and China, and they recently just released a half-hour special for one of the more interesting characters, Thousand Eyes, who's like a blind Lee Sin monk, if anybody here plays League of Legends. Which was very fun, very action-packed, very told his backstory, and it was good. It was very good.
Cool. Pete?
Oh dang! I haven't done a whole lot this week. Just work, spreadsheets and stuff I can't talk about. But for the most, this is a great time for television because, Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft, Yahoo. I mean, all these companies are generating this fantastic content because they're willing to pay for it. And Man in High Castle is probably the thing I've been geeking over the most this past couple of weeks. I pop it on when I'm cooking. I watch an episode or two. I mean, it's only the first season, but this is amazing television.
So real quick, Pete, I mean, just straight up, is it a good show, a great show, or what? Because I personally love Alexa Davalos, who I first saw on Angel, but I wanted to get a quick read on it from you.
Well, I mean, it's obviously not historically accurate, but that'd be kind of bad if it were. But it has character development, really good character development. The universe that it's in is believable. For those of you who don't know, it's basically the Axis powers winning World War II. And
that show looks so cool.
Yeah, it's about the world, primarily America. And the people who are trying to fight against the Nazi and Japanese occupation.
What are the not to interrupt you, but the I remember the East Coast and the West Coast are split, and then the center is a buffer state. I'm trying to remember their names.
There's the I think it's the Lesser Reich and Western America with the neutral zone in the middle. All kind of Star Trek-y.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, this week, since Marvel said that Daredevil was coming out the 18th of March, I decided to catch up to rewatch season 1 of Daredevil, see if I missed anything, or just see any Easter eggs that I could find. And that's still my favorite show of 2015. That show was just being the first Marvel show on Netflix and having, like, not necessarily, actually I would say really low expectations, but coming out and producing this show that was with a bunch of unknowns except for Vincent D'Onofrio, and the actor that played Foggy Nelson was not really an unknown, but they just somehow, they kind of just pulled together this really, really great show that was, I think, is still the best comic book TV show of all time.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I just...
Did you drop out of the call, Agassicles?
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah. So I don't know what's wrong with me. The show is okay. I mean, the show is significant from I would say a cinematography standpoint and from a creative content standpoint, just in terms of what it does or has done for the genre, and the fact that it's appeared on Netflix. It doesn't get me like other stuff does. I know a lot of people are enamored with it. I just haven't. It just hasn't hooked me as much, which I think is part of the reason why I've been reluctant to get into Jessica Jones, because I just feel like those two shows are akin to each other, and because I haven't gotten past, I don't think I think I'm hung up on the 3rd episode of Daredevil. And because I haven't broken past that point, I just haven't been willing to dive in with extra effort to check out Jessica Jones.
Oh, I disagree completely. I feel like both of those shows are just such great television, especially the market that they came out, and the medium that they came out, and the expectations going in. They live up to every single expectation for me, and even exceeded some.
I think Netflix does put out quality television. I don't think they've made a TV show that's been critically panned, except for their mecha anime that they made a little while ago.
Right.
So I think Daredevil and Jessica Jones are both. I think they're good television, but I do see where Agassicles is coming from in that they're not necessarily for everybody. But I personally like them.
Right. I'm glad you picked up on that, because I'm not saying they're bad shows.
Yeah.
I'm just saying whatever it is that attracts me and appeals to me. And I've mentioned on a couple other shows. One of my big things is one thing I really like is world building. Right. So and a lot of structure, which is why I kind of glom on to Star Trek. Right. Because Star Trek has a lot of background structure. It builds a universe. It has a political system. The military has a huge, like a very, tight structure. And I don't know. I feel, and I know those shows, and like I said, maybe it's because I haven't gotten that far into Daredevil. I know those shows hook into the Marvel universe, and I wager some more stuff comes in later. But at least for those first few episodes of Daredevil, I feel very much like it's a locked room episode where it's in New York City, but it feels like it's just a show about 3 characters. So
it does, yeah. Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there too, because with Star Trek they had to build a universe. They had to build the entire galaxy, but with Marvel's Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I mean, they're not building anything. They're just showing you, like you said, these 3 guys' lives, and that's really what Jessica Jones is too. But Jessica Jones is creepy. The camera, the cinematography is just creepy, which is fantastic.
Jessica Jones is like, on certain levels, is just kind of, it's like a horrifying kind of show. Like,
all right. And while we're on that topic, we should definitely plug that 2 of our entertainment editors, Everett Harn and Sarah Belmont, do I think a weekly show.
Every Sunday.
doing a full blown breakdown of each episode of that show. So if you're into it, if you've watched it and put it behind you, or if you're gonna do a rewatch or you're just getting started, it's definitely worth checking those episodes out.
Yeah, they talk about it in depth, much more in depth than we are going to talk about it.
Sorry about that little snafu.
I think the podcast episodes are longer than the shows.
All right, let's get into the news. This is the weekly Geekly in depth, where we talk about news stories more in depth than you hear on a show like Capes. So first off, let's talk about George Miller saying that he's done directing Mad Max movies. I, for one, am very disappointed because of just how awesome that movie was. Story-wise, I mean, that's not really on George Miller. There wasn't really a story to that movie. But what he did with directing it and the cinematography and everything that is the movie, besides the story, was just unbelievable.
Did we all see? So I saw Fury Road. Matt, it sounds like you saw it. Peter and James, did you guys see Fury Road?
I did.
Oh yeah, definitely saw it in theater. It's a fun ride.
Oh, absolutely.
Movie that you have to see in theaters.
You need that surround sound.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Again, I'm probably gonna be the outlier here. I'm definitely strongly divided on this. I feel like if they're going to make more Mad Max movies, yeah, it would be great if George Miller was going to stay on. But I've also been on record as saying I don't feel like I need more Mad Max movies. So,
I'm gonna agree with you. I love this movie as a solo movie, but I don't necessarily feel like it's a huge injustice if we don't see Mad Max on the big screen again.
I feel the same. I think it's a very good action movie, but Mad Max is a series that's probably run its course. You can only do so much with an action movie, and God forbid they start making like Die Hard Christmas. I don't want them to make a Mad Max Easter. I don't need that. I think it's fine where it is.
Peter, what do you think, man?
I really enjoyed Fury Road. I'm okay if they never make another one. I really think he put a button on it. But at the same time, they have an entire world that's full of post-apocalyptic horror to explore. I think that any good director with a good staff can come in and take over. And we've already proven that we don't need Mel Gibson for a good Mad Max. I think Tom Hardy did a fantastic job. I didn't miss anything.
I agree, and it's somewhat ironic considering the original series is over 20 years old, but I think it's actually refreshing to see an apocalypse that's not zombies. It's nice that it's just good old human destruction.
Well, so you guys have spawned so many questions. I guess my first question is what do we think about the notion of a director whose entire career is defined by one movie franchise?
Sam Raimi.
Well, Sam Raimi's more looked at as a horror director, I think.
Yeah, but I think Sam Raimi's the kind of guy that makes movies to make movies, and I think George Miller might be in that same boat where he makes his movies that people like and that he likes, but they're not necessarily
these
pieces
classics
of art. Yeah.
Pete, you said like you were about to say something?
I was breathing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know if George he did the previous Mad Max movies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's done all of them as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Did we know what anything else he's done?
I don't.
Me neither.
He's in talks to do I think either Justice League Dark or Justice League movie.
Him being behind a Justice League movie, I think would be good. I think that's the perfect kind of outlet for him to do his action-oriented cinematography.
Yeah, I do too. I think, but I'm trying to think of directors that I feel like are defined by film franchises.
And my question's a little bit beyond that. Maybe I was too much of a softball. Not like defined, like George Lucas's life is defined by one franchise, but I can think of a couple movies, and they were way older, probably before Matt and James, you guys were even born. That
American Graffiti.
Right. But George Miller, other than some very maybe small stuff. Oh, did he do?
He did Happy Feet.
Okay. All right.
I just looked it up.
Something.
Oh, he also did Babe, Pig in the City.
Oh, what a great
and Babe,
movie.
So as producer, so I mean he's got a lot of producer credit too.
Okay.
And I can't even think of a director that's like, I keep going to like Michael Bay, thinking of Just Transformers movie, but then again I think of like The Rock and Pearl Harbor and 13 Hours, and then I go to like, I can't even, Joss Whedon, but then there's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he did Firefly, right? Or no?
He did Firefly. He did Angel. He wrote the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. So that the Whedonverse, if you isolate it to like the Buffy Angel stuff is one corner, but then he did Firefly, and then he did Avengers, and he was the kind of the movie franchise architect for the Marvel movies and stuff. So he's getting around. He's a little more defined than by just Buffy.
Well, when I say Ridley Scott, what movies come to mind?
Alien, baby.
Right.
Nothing but Alien.
But
he's done amazing other work.
Yeah. And he's done a lot of great television shows too. Yeah. That's the other thing. He did Numbers. I think he's got another TV show that we talked about. I think we talked about it on Two Guys, a Girl, and a Scene that he's looking at as well. So I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, there's no doubt that there is value, and whatnot for the stuff George Miller's done with the Mad Max franchise. I guess I find it curious for a director driving their own career that they kind of, actors are known because they really want to get around, and I'm kind of surprised by a director who has hung in that one franchise for so long.
Yeah,
I see.
And it's not even like he hung in like a corner. He hung in a franchise. It wasn't like he was like type directed as a really good action director. He was just Mad Max, and it's a weird career that, and I think he's like 78 years old, that I don't know if we'll really ever see again. Someone that's directed arguably 4 really, really good movies, but that's really the only 4 people think about him for. There's actors that like Adam West who got typecast as just like a hero because of Batman, but that really
even he moved on to Family Guy, and he's done other things.
And I don't know if, what do you say?
It'll be interesting to see if Miller takes this route. So with those actors, and even if you look at Eddie Murphy, a lot of what those actors do is they eat the cheese, right? Like they're recognized as completely cheesy actors, and rather than run away from it, they take roles that put that type of characterization right on the nose, right? So like William Shatner is a complete ham, right? Because he was not, I can't figure the right term. I want to say vilified, but not vilified. But he's been pop culturized as this complete cheeseball as Captain Kirk, right? And so he's not going and taking like super huge dramatic roles. He's taking roles that punch that cheeseball characterization right in the nose, right? The Priceline commercials, Denny Crane on Boston Legal, and Eddie Murphy kind of did that shtick for a while too. He was recreating himself as the Dr. Dolittle guy, and like you said, Adam West, not so much taking on TV roles, but doing spots that kind of spoof him or lampoon him as having been that completely cheesy 1960s Batman. So it'll be interesting if Miller maybe takes a directorial parallel and maybe does things like Happy Feet and Babe like from here on out.
That'd be a funny transition if he's like he directs like the best movie of the year, and then all of a sudden he's doing Toy Story 4. Just like this weird transition.
Which would probably end up being a great movie. I mean, it's Toy Story and Pixar, and they're always making money.
Exactly. So Peter, you want to talk about the CISA and the CES.
Right, and I just wanted to bring up real quick. There's a thing out there. It's called the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act that was passed in Congress as a part of a larger appropriations bill. And really, all I want to do is just let people know, hey, this is out there, and this is important, and it can affect us. There's a lot of good information out there. The Electronic Frontiers Foundation offers some pretty good write-ups on it. They're a little biased, obviously, but what lobby organization isn't? What they also do is they give you links so you can contact your congressman and tell them what you think, and that's the real point here, is whether or not you like this. It was shoved into a budget bill at the last minute, and just stay informed, guys. Stay informed.
I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, that was my period on that one.
I agree with you. I think information is the single most important thing about this bill right now, mostly because entire websites blacked out for a day because of SOPA and PIPA, but very little action has been taken in response to this relative to those two, and I think that might be because they did sneak it in at the last minute, and it wasn't as televised and informationalized as the other two were. So I do just think everybody should go and see what this is and see if they're comfortable with it, and if they're not, make sure that they, as constituents of a larger part of America, do make it clear that it makes them uncomfortable. If it does, and if it doesn't, then make it clear it makes them comfortable.
It's an interesting topic to think about.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the Consumer Electronics Show, now called International CES, was just last weekend. Did anyone happen to take a look at some of the products coming out?
I did not get a chance.
Yeah, it is a big year for virtual reality. Personally, I think it's kind of a gimmick, like the smart fridge that takes a picture of what's inside.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's always the tough part.
Excessive.
That's always the tough part of CES, is like separating the wheat from the chaff. Like, there's lots of awesome news that come out, but I feel like even in the past few years, it's just been more and more of like the widget expo.
Yeah.
Not big like swings of the axe type products, but like these little really small cheesy things. But what surprised me so much about this year's CES was the amount of PC gaming centric gear and news that came out. I was really I saw it for the first couple of days, and I was like, they're just getting all that stuff out of the way up front. But it continued throughout the week, and I was like, holy cow, this is like the most PC gaming gear that I've seen on display at a CES since like the early 2000s.
Right, and I mean, the big players don't even show up anymore for gaming.
Right. So Peter, I mean, I think the biggest news out of CES was Oculus Rift. Getting final pricing, real units available, and I say out of CES, I didn't track the news so closely to understand whether or not Oculus was actually at CES or if they
were there.
Okay, all right. So if I remember correctly, it's $600 for an actual Oculus Rift unit.
Yep.
With a Xbox, either an Xbox One.
Yeah,
controller
Xbox
for
One
PC,
controller, and
and
then
a
you
remote.
got to shell out another $1,500 for the PC to run it.
Right. So, James, it sounds like you're pretty up to speed on it too. I mean, were either one of you guys excited about finally getting final pricing and projected release dates?
I take a very Jimquisition stance on it, in that I think we've seen these kinds of things before, and of course it's sold out because the people that want an Oculus Rift are probably wealthy enough that they can afford to get it right off the bat when it's $699, and they're the kind of tech people that want that kind of early access to this technology. I don't know if it'll be a wide seller. I don't know if it's going to be selling millions and millions of Oculus Rifts. I just don't think it has that kind of market. But I think it'll be successful for what it is, and I would love to get my hands on one, for sure.
Yeah, another bonus that came out of CES about the Oculus Rift is that the people who originally participated in the Kickstarter will be getting this market version as well, which is kind of cool since a lot of them were kind of mad about them selling to Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Personally, I thought it was a good move for Facebook because VR will be the future, whether we want it to be or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, and obviously everybody's got different opinions on it. My hope for VR is that it actually just kind of inject some fervor about visualization technology, but that it's a flash in the pan and we quickly move past it. I'm kind of at the point now. I think I may have said it on this podcast, maybe in another show. I'm not sure. Like, don't bother me with VR until you have the holodeck.
Right.
When you have the holodeck, give me a call. VR to me is an interstitial step to getting to greater visualization technology. That being said, if VR comes up with the killer app, which for me is integration with a flight simulator or a space simulator, then I'm there. I play a lot of flight sims and space sims, and the notion of having my flight control system and being able to actually look around the cockpit in 3D space and track a target that's coming in below me while I'm canopy down on it and being able to roll in behind him, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's where I see this technology going. At least in this interstitial step, like you said, is towards that simulation and training.
Right. And what I really want in the meantime is give me AR. What
Yes.
I really want.
Oh God, yeah.
What I really want is a thing that I can put on my face that gives me an overlay to the real world and augments the information that I have about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. A couple other things at CES that I found big, but I'm into home theater, is we finally have words again. We finally have a 4K standard that actually has some meaning. They're including things like dynamic, an increased dynamic range, a larger color gamut, something closer to the human eye, really, what we can visually perceive rather than what we've currently been looking at. And when I say 4K, it's not really 4K, it's more like a 2K, but it's still pretty cool. From a gadget standpoint. And the other thing that came out from CES is the new Blu-ray, the Ultra HD Blu-ray standard. And Samsung already has a unit that's for sale for around $400 to $500. Now, if anyone remembers back when Blu-ray first came out, the first Blu-ray player was around $1,000. So it's kind of a nice price break. I don't know, Agastocles, were you buying things when the first VCRs came out?
I was back then. The thing that sticks out in my mind the most, and I'm sorry, I got to interrupt again. Hey, John, I think it's you who might have an alarm or something going off in the background.
Yeah, that was a car alarm in my parking lot.
No problem. Yeah, I guess you can't turn that off, huh?
Yeah.
What did stick the technology step that sticks out in my mind was DVD. It was kind of funny. I had just shown up at grad school. I had done 4 years out in the workforce and went back to grad school full time. And my big purchase, right, was a DVD player when I got to grad school, and I caught it. It was January of '99. My DVD player was $500, and like 2 months later, in March of '99, is when DVDs started being carried by Walmart, and the prices dropped out of the bottom of the market, and like that same DVD player was like $50. So that's my video technology C story. So
yeah, my dad would always brag about how he bought his VCR when it was on sale for $1,000.
That's great. I guess I did learn a lesson, because when Blu-ray came around, when I just bought a PlayStation 4. So
right.
Or 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Yeah. I just sat and waited for that. So cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Early adopters usually pay the price. But other than that, CES was a lot of Segway clones, as I would call them. Some people call them hoverboards, but there's no hovering. So there was a lot of drones and Segway clones all across the exhibit hall, and drones are cool. I guess.
Yeah. I've been getting into drones. I've done one initial impressions post, and then I kind of lost my windows to do the 2 reviews that I stacked up. But I'm hoping that in 2016 we do see some more. The audience does see some more drone coverage at on Geeks Worldwide. So. Yeah,
and it's definitely going to be revolutionizing the cinematography industry as the drones get better, more stable. This is the last season of Mythbusters, and I mean they're really doing some amazing shots with their drone cameras.
Yeah, I think long gone is the day of the helicopter shot. We finally got a nice, stable venue from which to get nice eagle. Eagle eye shots, and I think that's great.
I don't know what it is. I've been on 2 podcasts this week for the Geeks Worldwide, and in both casts have had problems fumbling words. So becoming a trend. So hey, Matt, if we push on to news right now, we'll be tracking to be right about on time.
Yep, and for all of you guys who are confused, I am still here. I was cool. I just didn't have as much to say as they did. So, the Marvel released like a poster, like a picture thing online that it said "Dead No More," and we've all seen the picture, correct?
Mm.
Yes, the picture that is a black poster board with 3 frickin' white words on it.
Yes. What do we all think that means? I think it's someone's coming back who's been dead for a while. I've heard Wolverine's coming back, which could be interesting. I've heard some other things. I don't think Uncle Ben's coming back.
Oh, come on.
Low blow? Too soon?
I do have to say, I feel like that would be the most. So the rumors are Wolverine, non-Spider Gwen Stacy, and Uncle Ben, and there's probably a couple more out there, but I feel like the non-Spider Gwen Stacy and the Uncle Ben are the 2 most revolutionary things Marvel could do. Like I feel like bringing Wolverine back. Okay, so Matt dropped out. So I feel like bringing Wolverine back is very tropish.
Mm-hmm.
It's the standard. Let's kill a hero and then bring him back. And I mean, mother F. The guy hasn't even been dead. Has he been dead 12 months?
No,
I don't think
he
so.
Hasn't. I mean, he was in Battle World for a little bit as Old Man Logan.
Right. So I'm just Marvel, don't just don't. Yeah.
The only way that I would be okay with them bringing back Uncle Ben, because bringing back Uncle Ben like ruins the character of Spider-Man, because the whole reason he gets into fighting is because his uncle's killed for the reason that he is that reason. So the only thing that would really, I think, be cool would be like, what if like Uncle Ben comes back and he's like, I'm just not gonna be Spider-Man anymore. Like, just shows like he doesn't have that will anymore because he doesn't have that responsibility. Even though, like, just the reason he does it is because Uncle Ben's dead. So Uncle Ben's no longer dead. He no longer has that necessary obligation to be Spider-Man. So it'd be cool to see like a story about like the fallout of him not being Spider-Man and him eventually putting that costume back on.
What do you guys think about the notion of Uncle Ben being brought back and being evil, and being somebody Peter has to take down?
I feel like that might be a little too
cliche.
But I think having him come back and maybe being not the person Peter thought he was could be interesting. Like, now that he's been dead for so long, seeing him as less
Hookers
of a
and
paternal
cocaine.
figure. Yeah.
Hookers and cocaine.
Or maybe more of an idol. Like, throughout the time that he's been dead, he's idolized him, and then he sees him as a regular human, which Peter obviously isn't, and maybe he sees him as a little less spectacular than he did when he was still so young.
I hope it's hookers and cocaine.
It could be cool to bring him back and like just have him like struggle with the notion of being reincarnated and just become like an alcoholic, be somebody who can't keep a job, just be somebody different, like you said.
I agree. I think that would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and I'm sure the geek world population is crying out in anguish right now that we would even suggest such a thing.
I think it would be really cool to see him be someone that's like, what if he like remembers like being dead and remembers being shot and stuff, and he just like is just really messed up by that and can't handle it, and like he can't hold the job. He becomes an alcoholic and maybe a little bit of hookers and cocaine.
Yeah, I think the key riff they could drive is have him not wind up back with May.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just have I wouldn't say several, but a few issues of them trying to get back together and make things work, and then just having Ben just go, I can't do this, I'm not the same person, we're not the same couple. I think it would be a big deal just to have like a cover with Aunt May and Ben just walking away from each other, and like Peter with his head hung down in the middle. Like, that could be like a huge issue.
And then that translate into him fighting villains, and like someone escapes, and then he like has to relearn I think that would probably be how it would go. He has to relearn with great responsibility comes great power, or great power comes great responsibility.
Or just learn a lesson that makes that lesson stick, like reinforces it. Have him bridge the gap that, hey, even if that experience with Uncle Ben is broken or different, it doesn't matter. That statement that with great power comes great responsibility is consistent regardless of who delivered it.
Exactly. Maybe does May know that he's Spider-Man? She does. I thought she did.
Well, she did. This whole like reboot and Wars like bullshit. Sorry. got a little overzealous there. So in that world, I don't know. I would assume she does, but I don't know. I haven't read any of the Marvel books since that has gone down.
Yeah, I would assume that she still knows. But maybe if she didn't know, then she finds out, and maybe she's like disappointed in him or something along the lines. Just something that he really has to learn, that it's not what you just said. It's not who delivered that line. It's about living his life by that line.
And not only that, but the battle between his personal and family problems and his problems in New York, I think, would be a good dynamic to have in that movie as well. Like, he has to rise above the occasion, and even though he's depressed because his family is breaking apart for the third time really, he knows he still has that responsibility because he has that great power, and he knows he has to keep saving New York because that is his job.
Dudes, we need to all go put suits on and meet at the Marvel offices, because we just pitched like a 3-year run of Spider-Man in like 6 minutes.
Yeah, that was the best Spider-Man book they could have possibly written. And Dan Slott, if you're listening, and I know you are, then that needs to be your run.
Man. So do we want to talk about DC television?
I definitely want to talk about DC television. I didn't get a chance to watch the Captain Cold spot, but I did watch the White Canary spot, and I was iffy on that show at the beginning, but every single time I see something with White Canary in it, I'm in on the show more and more and more.
Yeah, if you're a Leonard Snart fan, and I feel like that's what I want to call him. Like he's one of those heroes / villains that to me, he's his name. He's not like his superhero code name or whatever. So I freaking love Leonard Snart. You know what Wentworth Miller does with that role is just so. I don't know if endearing is the right word, but like.
He really makes you love a terrible, terrible guy.
Yes, exactly. Just that completely like sardonic tone in his voice to everything, and just the way it drips sarcasm, with every single line.
Yep. The thing I love about him so much is that, like, especially that episode of The Flash, I think it was 22 last year, where they break them out, the rogues out. And he's like, we'll do this mission together. And then he turns on them. You good, James? I was in the middle of speaking. Really disrespectful. No, I'm just kidding. But that episode, he turns on them. And he basically is like, yeah, of course I did. I'm a bad guy. I'm going to turn on you.
Yeah, so if you saw the trailer, and James or Peter, did either of you guys see this Legends of Tomorrow trailer?
I have to admit, I haven't seen any DC TV except for Supergirl.
Okay.
Ever.
Oh, we'll have a conversation about that. James, did you see the Legends of Tomorrow trailer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what did you think about it? Likes, dislikes?
I think that it's gonna be good to have this mashup, because this is going to give DC that opportunity to land that, like, the Avengers killing blow that Marvel had that really set them on the path to great success with their franchise. So I think this is going to be really good for DC.
Yeah, I thought the trailer was awesome. It if you haven't seen it, it showcases Leonard Snart. There's a lot of I'm very interested to see the dynamic between him and Rip Hunter, because what they set up in the trailer is this notion that, yes, Leonard Snart has a streak of good in him, but regardless of that, he has absolutely no regard for authority. So
he's morally good.
Yes, right.
He won't kill. He doesn't harm women or children. I mean, that, like, he'll harm, like, a woman superhero, but he wouldn't, like, go after someone like that. He doesn't go after members of, like, superhero's family. But he's just a dick.
Right.
That's the best way to describe him. He's not he's not evil. He's a dick.
Right. I don't remember my Dungeons and Dragons alignments very well, but if this were D&D, he would be like, is it chaotic good?
Yeah, either like chaotic good or chaotic neutral.
Yes, yeah. So he believes in doing good things and protecting innocence and taking from the fat cats, but he has absolutely no regard for authority, and he believes in a slight amount of anarchy. So it's going to be very interesting to see this interplay with he and Rip Hunter. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. What about Supergirl?
I don't really watch that show, but I saw the still of Martian Manhunter, and that's the best you can do on a TV budget, and it still looks really accurate. It just kind of looks like weird, but I mean, you're not really going to be able to do much else on a TV budget. But I might get into the back half of this season just to kind of see where they go with that character, because he's such an iconic character, and he's one of my favorite characters, and he's probably one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe. And I'm just really excited to see where that goes, and I'm definitely going to try to jump on. But I know, Gascles, you're a huge fan of the show.
I wouldn't necessarily
You're a fan of the show.
Yeah, I like it. I would say more specifically, I'm a correspondent for the show. Just that I've watched it and I've kept up with it, whereas a lot of people have kind of stood out on the periphery. There have definitely been problems with that show. I was on it writing weekly reviews from the pilot on, And man, those first four episodes were the most excruciating writing assignments that I've ever had, because I kept wanting the show to be good, and it kept falling short so many times. But I could see the glimmers of hope. So, but at any rate, the news story is that the executive producer of the show, Andrew Kreisberg, indicated that in an upcoming episode they will show how Gian Jones became Hank Henshaw. So, I'm hoping what he's talking about is that it will be kind of a flashback episode to show exactly what went down between Jeremiah Danvers, Hank Henshaw, and Gian Jones. I actually hope that it's a full flashback episode. I just want them to go back to that time at the beginning and have that be the whole show. I don't want to do kind of an Arrow-esque thing where they're like in the present and then going back every 5 minutes. Just because when they go back to that time, I just want to be immersed in that story.
Yeah, I agree.
I wonder if he'll go into space and do what his comic book origin as Cyborg Superman is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're gonna. I think this is all gonna be. Well, I think it's gonna be predominantly found on Earth. They may show his planet fall, like briefly deal with him coming to Earth, but I think most of the episode and most of the story is going to be about this encounter between the three of them. I think somewhere in a jungle in South America.
And
how
that's what they said.
Yeah. So I'm very interested to see that. I love seeing him. And Peter, you said you watch it. Have you watched it up to the most recent episode?
Yeah, and I gotta say, I kind of agreed with you about the first 4 episodes. It was all there, but I'm glad to see where the writing is going and the direction's going, and that it's, I remember back to the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Some of those episodes were pretty rough, but we hung on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The guys in skirts were particularly endearing.
Oh, yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that it was such a flash in the pan approach, and they eventually skewed away from it. But
thank goodness.
We're not here to judge.
But yeah, in the most recent episode, and I'll put a spoiler warning in the posts and on the video and whatnot. But we get to see the first real use of John Jones using his morphing power and disguising himself. I won't say exactly what he does, but we do see the first shift of him going from one form to his Martian form back to Hank Henshaw, and that effect wasn't great, but it was a good start. But yeah. But I guess the other significant thing that this article mentions is it has a couple quotes from David Harewood, who plays the character, and I want to say I don't know, he might be Sir David Harewood. He's somewhere in the British peerage, maybe at a level below actually being knighted, but
Baronet, I think.
Something. It's a weird thing where he was adopted by the knighted person of it or whatever. So, but what he mentions is he didn't know he signed on to play Hank Henshaw. He did not understand that Hank Henshaw was also Gian Jones. But he says now that he knows he's dug back into the history of that character and realizes how it's wildly popular. And then I'll mention, as a minority, he also discovered that the character, for whatever reason, and I don't completely understand it, is endearing to African Americans, and they kind of Martian Manhunter, I guess, is kind of in some circles, it's always felt that he is African American.
Yeah, he's considered the black character.
Right. So, which is, I don't know why, but I've always felt that way too. But every time they talk about him being cast, I'm like, man, I hope they cast him as an African American because I feel like that's what he's supposed to be. But at any rate, it's cool that he's dug into that history, and he's cool that he's found that social
importance, that cultural importance that John Jones should have.
Exactly, and I love the fact that Kyler Lay, who plays Alex, Cara Danvers' sister, actually pronounces it Gian. So I think that's pretty neat.
I just didn't like how they kind of lacklusterly revealed to Supergirl who he was. I mean, they made it a big point to keep it secret. Next
Right.
episode, it's like, oh, by the way.
But you know what I love about that scene is I love the first time they did the reveal, hugely dramatic, right?
Yeah.
All this, stuff around, the father and all that, and like, the big reveal and the camera angle to make him appear that he was like 10 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
I kind of like that they went the comedic route with this, that Alex and Hank look at each other and then you don't actually see the reveal on screen, and then they cut away and it's Kara like, yelling about, why the hell didn't they tell her? And then and I love the closing of that scene where she goes, you could have told me I can keep a secret, and Hank and Alex look at each other and both say, no, you can't.
Yeah, that was great.
This whole thing of like how many people know she's Supergirl is becoming like a running joke, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you want to talk about Stan Lee real quick?
Yeah, this is back into the somber news. Living legend, Stan Lee. Some would consider the greatest comic book. I don't know what the word. I wouldn't necessarily go writer because I think there are some people that might be better writers than him. But what he did for comics was so important, and he is losing his eyesight at the tender age of 93. And he was revealed to, let me just double check that website, comicbookresources.com, that when he has an idea for something, he'll tell someone about it, and they would write an outline for him. And he no longer can read that outline. He can no longer read comic books. And it's very sad because, not to be a pessimist, but he doesn't have a lot of years ahead of him.
Yeah.
And it's really sad for someone who's brought us such joy in his life and still continues to do so to this day, that it really shows that even the legends can take that step back.
I think that there are creators and there are artists, and what they've done will never die. And I don't think any of Stan Lee's creations, especially in this new modern era, will die. And I think when he's gone, his memory will still be infinite. And I think he's comfortable with that, and I think that might be why he's a little more comfortable with taking that step back. He has done so much in this very long career that I think he probably feels accomplished, and rightly so.
Definitely. What, Peter Nagascles?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't say anything that's of any significance when talking about Stan Lee. He's just such. What he's done, what he's accomplished, what he has set before the rest of us who follow in his wake is just of a magnitude that escapes words. So
there is no one else like Stan Lee. You can't look at someone from DC and be like, oh, that guy created so many characters. If you think of any DC people, you would probably think of Alan Moore, Frank Miller, Mark Millar, but they didn't do the things that Stan Lee did. You look at the characters that Stan Lee created and how important those characters are today, it blows your mind.
Stan Lee has made himself as much of an icon as his heroes.
Yes.
And the good thing is that with any legacy like Stan Lee has, it really does seem to be in pretty good hands. I mean, you may not like this current incarnation of the Marvel Universe, but the next one's probably only a year or two away, and I mean, but there's always new things, and they're always going to keep the stories going, and for someone to leave that kind of legacy, it's pretty incredible. I mean, 50, 60 years ago, when somebody died, they might make it into a history book. Now, I mean, with the proliferation of media, whether it be print, televised, radio, audio, or some other form of electronic, I mean, you have such an amazing amount of information on people that they're never really going to go from the minds of popular culture.
Yeah, definitely. And something kind of go off something James said. I have 2 points I want to make. One is he does seem comfortable, because most of the time you wouldn't necessarily like release in detail the information that he did. You would kind of just be like, oh, I'm losing my eyesight. It's just kind of gradually happening. But he really went into detail on like how it's affecting him, and I think he does seem comfortable. He seems like he knows that it's almost his time, and that he has lived a good life, and he has touched so many. But another thing is, we don't need to talk about him in the past tense, because he's still making cameos in movies. He's gonna be in Deadpool. He'll probably be in Civil War. I mean, heck, he might pop up in Batman vs Superman for all we know. He's written some stories for DC. We really like his. He is a legend. If there ever has been one. If there ever someone to fit the word of legend, it is Stanley Lieber. So I think that wraps it up. No?
Yep. That'd be
I
it.
think so too.
Yeah, I don't think we can
Tender.
squeeze. I don't think we can squeeze any more geek out of this week.
I don't think
I think we have literally covered like every genre and media fork aspect of geekdom. So
exactly.
Which
Take
is the whole
that, the
point of the
Weekly
show.
Planet. Well, I was great. Gasly, do you have anything to plug?
No, not a thing, man. People know where to find my stuff.
Ooh, the cocky route. I love it. James?
You know, I would actually just like to say, people interested in video games, look at Jimquisition. Look at him. He also does some more general news. I think he is a very important part of geek culture, and I think he does have geekdom's best interests in mind, and I think more people giving him attention would be better for everybody.
Pete?
Yeah, you know, our one of our editors, Everett Harn, is putting together our best of 2015 lists and getting them up on the GWW right now. So, you know, check out the website and you know, read and comment. We like to interact with people. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, we do. I was going to plug the website too. thegww.com. I've started to write on that website, which I'm looking forward to. I know James is going to start writing soon.
You know it.
You can find me at Marvelopedia on Twitter. You can find this podcast, at GWW Geekly Weekly. That's not the real name of the show. There's been a whole. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a joke. It's a thing.
We'll be cleaning that up soon.
It's in lack of professionalism.
Right.
But so again, at Marvelopedia on Twitter, and be sure you listen to all the Geeks Worldwide podcasts. I mean, Geeks Worldwide podcasts, not just this one. The Capes Crew podcast is a really interesting one that I've been lucky enough to co-host on, as has Agasicles and Peter and James at some point. The Two Guys, a Girl, and a Scene records on Sundays. I don't know when that goes up, but that's also a great show. The Netflix Crew is a great show. We have anything that your little geek heart desires. There's either a podcast or an art or a corner of the website dedicated to. We have a great team of people that cover everything. And if you can't find something, let us know, because we can find someone who will be able to do that for us.
Right, and to make it easier for you, those podcasts are on SoundCloud and on
Yes.
iTunes. So please check it out, subscribe, like, submit a review, give us some stars.
Yeah, and what Pete said, talk to us. We'd love to interact with you. Tell us we're wrong. We would love to discuss with you why. All right, well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for staying this long. like it on SoundCloud, and we'll see you guys next week.